that the students would just leave the class and bang the door, and I'm like, huh? Wait, did that just happen? That whole scene just happened. Hi guys, hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're here for the first time, hi. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being back. So if you don't know, my name is Lena, and in today's video I am just going to tell you guys about 10 cultural shocks I faced when I first came to Italy. So yes, if you still haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe, and let's just start with the video. So in this video I'm just going to tell you guys about the first year, maybe the first couple of months that I came to Italy, my experiences over the first couple of months that I came here, because I feel like those are the moments where you are just like, whoa, like I'm in a totally different place. Like after that it just becomes normal, or after that it just becomes a whole different story. But I feel like the first moment you step in, like the first couple of months, is where you're like, where am I? Like, what is happening? So anyways, that is just what I'm going to tell you. So let's just start, because I feel like I'm talking so much. And okay, so yes, like I said, let's just start. And yeah, so the first thing I feel like I noticed, or the first cultural shock to me when I first came to Italy, was the fact that it was very, very quiet. Okay, so when I first came in, when I first came here, I lived in a very, very small town, which is in the provincia di Treviso, which is like the province of Treviso, whatever. And I lived in a very, very small town which is called Castelcucco. So if you guys are from around this area, you guys must know the town. It's a pretty, pretty small town where everybody knows each other, and the houses are not like, the houses over here are not like apartment buildings, okay? So it's more like everybody is in their own flat, like it's just like flat kind of houses. And so you don't really get to see people, like, nah, you don't really get to see that. And I feel like I did not also get to see a lot of people because it was summer. People were probably away. I mean, I'm not sure, but it was just, I was just not seeing people, and I was like, do people even live here? Like, why is it so quiet? Why am I not hearing children? Like, why am I not hearing this and that? And that is because from where I came from, I was very used to seeing people. Like, you see people at 5:30 in the morning till 12 midnight. You see people from morning to evening, when you're sleeping, when you're not sleeping. You hear voices, you hear children playing, you hear, like, you just hear the presence of people. And this is where I was not hearing none of those, and I was like, okay, what is happening? So I feel like that quietness was quite new to me. It was very, very new to me. I did not understand it, but anyways, it was very new. So I think that was the first cultural shock, the fact that I wasn't seeing people and I wasn't hearing lots and lots of movements and noise. It was just strange. Anyways, the second cultural shock was the fact that I felt quite different. Okay, I know this might sound strange, but yes, of course I am different. I am different, but I never ever thought that I would feel this way. I never thought I would feel different to the point of not feeling like I was welcomed, okay? Which, I mean, it took me a very, very long time to just kind of just be comfortable with that. But I mean, in the beginning, it was like, okay, what is happening? Like, I know I am black. I know that I live in a neighborhood where it's just two black families in that neighborhood. I know that everybody kind of knows me because you kind of recognize me. But I did not feel like it was a problem until I started to go to school. Okay, so basically I think the first day of school, so I came in August, and in September I already had to start school. So I think the first day my dad actually dropped me and picked me up from school. So there was no issue, apart from the fact that, yeah, you're the new person in class. It was just pretty strange, everybody asking you questions and everything. Okay, fine, boom. But the second day I had to go by myself, and this time I had to take the bus to school. And the bus in the mornings are literally just children in the bus, like just students in the bus. So I picked the bus, and I was the only one no, I actually found myself a spot in the bus and I sat down. But then I realized that at every stop, students would just get on the bus, but nobody would want to sit next to me. And I was like, why are you all standing when clearly there's a seat right next to me, but like nobody wanted to sit down? And it just felt strange to me. It was just very different, like, because I'm used to just people not being bothered by sitting next to me like my entire life. I was just used to it, and um this was a new reality for me. So it kind of took a while for me to just understand that this is just how it's going to be. Like, nobody is going to want to sit next to me because of I don't know what. So yeah, it actually just made me feel quite different. I just felt aware of myself more, which, I mean, before I was not, because everybody from my place is just, it's just this color, okay? So I just basically felt a little bit removed from what I was used to, and that was just basically it. Okay, so the third cultural shock would be the PDA, guys. The public display of affection was so new to me. I know if you are from Africa, you guys understand what I mean. Like, it was so new. I'm from a place, I keep saying I'm from a place. Like, you guys know that in our culture, we are not really showy, lovey like that. And especially if you're a young person, like, you cannot do these things outside. You cannot. Now, that was my reality. And then I moved to a different country where I see 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and people just making out outside and in buses and in the classroom. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I was so uncomfortable at the beginning because really, it was just new, okay? So it was very uncomfortable, okay, in the beginning. It was extremely uncomfortable, especially when one day I was sitting on, like, in a bus or on a bus, and like the people in front of me, the children, the students in front of me, those behind me, those beside me were all making out, and I'm like, I was the lone ranger, and I was like, what is happening? But it was very new, but I mean, I kind of got used to it, like, at a point, and just accepted the fact that that is just how it is. Like, it is the way it is. Like, you cannot change it. This is a different country, and they have different things and different ways of doing things. And so, yeah, you just kind of adapt and you just kind of see things in a different way. Anyways, that was the other cultural shock. The next cultural shock was the fact that everybody smoked, guys. Every single person I knew smoked, okay? I'm not talking about black people, because you guys, you know that if you're black and you start to smoke, it's either you are irresponsible, or your parents are irresponsible, or you have just gone haywire. Like, you're just a stray dog. That was it. Whenever you smoked, like, it is that bad in Africa that when you smoke and you're caught, especially if you're caught in school smoking or whatever, you are expelled from school, okay? So that was my whole mindset. I have never touched smoke. I have never no, I can't say I never drank alcohol, because I remember I did. But I mean, smoking was like a next level thing. And here I was, where everybody around me was smoking. Like, very young people were smoking. During break time, you see students and teachers smoking together. Nobody was saying anything. It was just the norm. It was just the order of the day. And I was falling into this, and I was like, okay, so why is this okay here? And why is this not okay in a different place? I'm not trying to say that, but I kind of just feel like sometimes we kind of, I don't know, we kind of just make things so complicated and so complex. And yeah, I understand it's not part of our culture, but the fact that you as a person is seen in a very dark light when you do all these activities, when, I mean, it doesn't even have anything to do with your character. It just was mind blowing. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is that that was very new to me. The fact that everybody was smoking, and the fact that nobody was saying that they were bad people, or nobody was questioning their character based on the fact that they smoked, based on the fact that they were all lovey-lovey, kissy-kissy in public, based on the fact that they were doing whatever they wanted to do. It was not being questioned on their character. But when you do it in a different place, it is a problem. That was like a huge cultural shock to me, a very, very huge cultural shock to me. So that was a culture shock. Another cultural shock was the blasphemy. Guys, blasphemy. If you guys live in Italy or if you're Italian, you know that in the north, they are known for being the most blasphemous people. Now, guys, this was something I would always hear. So the first month or so that I was in Italy, every 2 sentences I was hearing something being repeated, and I was like, what does this mean? Because it did not even make sense to me at that point. Every single like thing, they would drop this bar. Every single time they would just drop another bar, and it was just the same things being said but in a different way, and blah blah blah. And I was like, what does this mean? I did not know. I never asked. But one day I was in class and one of my mates said he was coming to teach me a word in Italian, and he said I should repeat after him. So he said the word and I repeated after him. I asked what this meant, and he did not say anything. He did not say anything. He was just like, no, it doesn't really mean anything. But I mean, if you say it, people will know you're from Veneto. And I was like, okay. So I knew this was bad because I had heard a lot of people say this for a very, very long time. Like I said, it was almost in every single sentence that people would use outside. And I remember a teacher came to class and like the boy said, my mate said, oh, guess what? Lena has learned a new word. And the teacher was like, oh, what word is that? And I was like, oh, it's da da da. And the teacher was like, no, never say that again. It's not good, blah, blah, blah. And then later on I asked and they told me it was kind of like, it was just blasphemous, okay? The teacher was like, don't listen to this guy. If he offers to teach you something, just refuse it, because no. And if you're learning Italian, you shouldn't be learning these things. And I was like, okay, fine. So yes, one thing I noticed was that people would say things like this a lot, and you would think that this is like a Christian country, and so they'll just be mindful of what they say, mindful of what they say about God, mindful about what they say about her. But no, guys, no, they were just shooting blasphemous words here and there, blasphemy everywhere, and I was like, oh my God, this is the reality of things. But I mean, I was kind of shocked, but yeah, I think I was quite shook by that. But I mean, it is Veneto, and you guys know that this is the reality of Veneto. Anyways, that was another cultural shock. The next cultural shock to me was the use of the left hand. So in my culture, okay, you never ever use the left hand. The left hand is like considered to be the unclean hand. You cannot, it's just when you use the left hand, it's just a sign of disrespect. So you can't point at things with your left hand. You can't receive things with your left hand. You can't give anybody anything with your left hand. The left hand is just a no-no. And here I was where everybody was just raising their left hand, just showing people stuff with their left hands, handing out things with their left hands. And I was thinking, can I also do the same thing? Like in my head, I was wondering, could I do the same thing? And my head was telling me, no, you cannot do the same thing. But I kind of realized that people had different ways of perceiving things. Everybody's just different. Countries are different. Cultures are different. And if something is being done in your culture, it doesn't mean that that thing would apply in a different culture. So the fact that people were just using left hands for everything was just like, it was just totally different to me. And I remember that the first time that I used my left hand, like by asking a question in class or whatever, I just felt so strange. I felt super strange because I had never done that before. And it just felt really, really weird because I felt like I was being disrespectful in a way. Because I just felt really uncomfortable using my left hand, I just basically stopped because I was not going to learn something that was not in my culture, and I was always around black people anyways. I could not start giving my mom some things with my left hand. Like, it was just a no-no. So I just basically just stuck to my roots and just, you know, just decided to not be using my left hand as much as the Italian person would use the left hand. So basically, I mean, this might seem very trivial, but I mean, it's not that trivial, especially when it's just something that is really, really rooted in culture. And so yeah, I think that was my next cultural shock, the fact that people were just using different hands. Like, there was no difference in whatever, everything was the same. You can use your right hand, you can use your left hand, it's the same thing. Okay, the next cultural shock to me would be the fact that people were very, very outspoken. Now, I'm always listening. Anytime I speak about these things, I'm going to connect it with my experience in school, because that is where I kind of saw all these things, okay? My first experiences in school. So basically, people were just very, very outspoken. And it was just shocking to me, because when you come from a culture, when you come from a place where you're not allowed to speak, when you come to a place where you're allowed to show respect by just listening, it was just very weird to me. The fact that these people, or my mates, or whoever, had zero fear to express their opinions. They had zero fear to just justify a certain behavior or a certain action. Was just mind-blowing to me. It was mind-blowing to me, but I admired that courage, because I never ever was able to do that, because you are always supposed to be very, very quiet and just listen, even if the person that is just speaking to you is not right, and even if you are right, you are just expected to just shut up and just listen. And this is where I was, and people were like, no, I'm not going to shut up, I'm just going to say what I feel, I'm just going to say what I like. I don't care about what you think. This is my truth, and I'm telling you my truth. It was just really, really strange to me, but it was a good strange, because I admired and I aspired to be able to be that outspoken. And so I think, yeah, this was one of the cultural shocks, like the fact that a teacher and a student will have an argument in class, and at times it got really, really heated, that the student would just leave the class and bang the door. And I'm like, huh? Wait, did that just happen? That whole scene just happened. This will not be happening in Africa. This will not be happening in Ghana. You have earned yourself suspension for life if you ever behave like that towards a teacher. Like, okay. But this was happening, and I was like, wow. I mean, there was just this zero fear of just being expressive and just telling you their mind. I feel like it's just the passion, like the Italian passion. It comes with this, okay? So yeah, another cultural shock would be that if somebody tells you that you are stupida or that you're shema, meaning you're stupid or you're fool, they don't necessarily mean that you are, okay? I kind of learned this not in a very good way, okay? So I remember that I, as a child growing up, I was banned. Listen, BANNED, BANNED. I was literally banned from saying certain words. Words like fool, words like you're an animal. Like, you know, in Ghana, people would say, oh, waboa, kwasia, blah, blah, blah. If you guys are Ghanaian, you understand that. I was literally banned from saying words like that, words that would just kind of hurt other people. I was not allowed to say that. So it just kind of held a very, very, how do you say, it was just huge for me. Like, anytime somebody used that word, I would feel so offended. Even if it wasn't addressed to me, I would just feel so offended, because I had been taught to never, ever use that. Like, guys, literally, if I would say that, I would look over my shoulder to see who is watching just to say that. That was how bad it was. And this is where I was, where one day, by no fault of my friend, okay, she jokingly, it was even not her fault, jokingly said, Makwante say shema. And me, as soon as I heard that. Basically what that means is that, oh, how dumb or how stupid or how foolish are you, something like that. And I was like, did you just call me stupid? Did you just say I'm a fool? And she was like, no, it's just a joke. Like, it was just, guys, now looking back on it, I feel like I overreacted because she did not mean harm by what she said, but I took it so personal because for me that thing held so much weight. I took it very, very personal. And she was like, no, she did not mean it like that. It was just a joke. And she was from Russia, okay? So she was from Russia, I was from Ghana, and we were just going to go to an after school because after school, she was in my same school. But after school, we would go to an after school to learn Italian over there. So yeah, we just got into this whole argument and stuff, and I just felt bad that the fact that she had called me Shema, and I was like, why did you do that? She was like, no, it was just a joke, And I remember that we finished eating, and I remember that on our way to the after school, which was like 2 or 3 kilometers away, yeah, let's just say 2 kilometers, we did not speak to each other. I was in front of her, I was ahead, like, guys, I was speeding and she was behind me. I did not want to speak to her, I did not want to talk to her just because she had called me a fool jokingly. And yeah, but I mean, after I kind of understood, and we just started, she apologized, and it was just a mess, guys. It was just a mess. Now, this should tell you that sometimes the way you grow up, the way you're brought up kind of affects the way you think about certain things. And like I said, looking back on it, I feel like I overreacted, mainly because that is how I was brought up. You're not meant to be using such words. Even if it's in the form of a joke, you're not meant to be using such words. And so I just kind of took it very, very personal, very personal. So, yes, if you come over here and somebody says, oh, say stupida, or say shema, or blah blah blah, if the person is saying it in a jokingly way, do not take it personal. Like, just like how somebody's saying, but you fool, oh, like something like that. It's just don't take it too personally, okay? It's just a joke. Except the person means it. If the person means it, you guys will be able to tell by the tone of the voice. So just be able to make that distinction. And yeah, that was it. Another cultural shock would be that I could not hear any honking. Guys, there was no honking. I think this is part of why I felt like it was all so quiet. Like, there was no honking of cars. And I was like, all these cars have been passing, and no car is just honking. It was just surreal. It was just new, because in Ghana, you guys know that honking of cars is just a melody. You can dance to cars honking. You can just dance to the noise of the cars. It was just so strange to not hear to not hear a single honk of a car. It was just really strange. But I mean, later on, I got to find, why can't I speak? Like, basically, later on, I got to understand that it was just, honking of cars was just vietato. How do you say vietato? It was prohibited. It was prohibited to just honk cars because, yes, you can't. Unless it's something you cannot avoid, then yes, it is allowed. But on a normal basis, you can't be doing that. You cannot be doing that. So that was another cultural shock. The fact that cars just drove in peace and tranquility, nobody just honking, nobody doing stuff. Oh, the last cultural shock would be, I think this is the 10th one, would be the respect for personal spaces, okay? Oh, you can breathe. I remember I could just breathe. People will not just be all over you. You know, there is this thing where people say, oh, Italians are very, very, they do not respect they do not respect personal spaces. They're all over your face, just kissing and hugging and all of that. Yes, that is there, but they would never ever do it to you if they are not close to you, okay? So for example, if they don't know you, nobody's going to give you the two-cheek kiss or the hug. No, they're just going to give you a handshake. So yeah, it depends basically. But I feel like the respect for public spaces was just so nice. Why do I keep saying public spaces? Personal space was just so nice because I mean, nobody had to be in your face. Even when you're waiting for bus, there would be intervals in between. When you go to a public area like the post office, or when you went to the bank, or where you went to wherever, there would be some distance. Like people just kept distances, which was really, really nice. Like people would just be respectful of your own space. If you asked to be left alone, people would leave you alone and stuff like that. It was just really, really refreshing. So I think these are the 10 cultural shocks that I faced when I first came to Italy. Like I said, this is not from over the period that I've been here, but this is just from the first few months that I was here. These are the things that I was experiencing. This were my thoughts, why things were different and stuff like that. So yes, if you do want me to do any other thing related to Italy, so anything that has to do with my education, that has to do with work, that has to do with the fact that you know, that just has to do with living in Italy in general, just let me know, and yeah, I'll be sure to do that for you. So yeah, thank you. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Ciao.